What's up, homies? What's up, homies? What's up, homies? Welcome to the Knowledgeable Homeowner Podcast. We pick the brains of industry pros to unlock the trade secrets of homeownership. Our mission is simple: to turn everyday people into knowledgeable homeowners. What's up, homies? Welcome back to the Knowledgeable Homeowner Podcast. I'm Sturdy Joe. Joining me today is Matt Kleinfelder, VP of PRK Insurance. What's up, man?
What's going on?
Thanks for coming on.
Here. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to talk insurance because it's a topic that we really haven't gotten into at all, I don't think. And it's relevant to every single person, whether they be a homeowner or not. Everybody pays insurance in one way or another. Every adult is paying insurance for so many different things. Yeah. And I think it's really easy to turn a blind eye to it and to not educate yourself on it and to just kind of hope that everything is good with insurance. But I'm sure that's not the case. And I'm sure being on your side, there's so many.
From my perspective, that's not the case. Most people, obviously, it's a bottom line thing. It's an expense for everybody. It's something that no one wants to pay, but everyone needs, right?
Yeah.
My dad and I always talk about it. If you look around and anywhere you are, right, everything has insurance on it. From the trees and bushes to the buildings to the cars to, people's lives to people's health to, disability, workers' comp, if something
it goes so deep.
It goes so deep, right? So there's such a need and it's so relevant, like you said, to every single person. But it's something that a lot of people don't really want to deal with. It's something that intimidates a lot of people.
I think that's the biggest thing is it's very, very scary. Like when they think, because why do you have insurance? Because something went wrong.
Right.
We want to pretend things never go wrong. So it's like if I can disassociate with anything that has anything to do with it. But before we get too deep into it, it's tradition here for you to take a minute, give us your backstory. Tell us how you got into insurance, the history of PRK, all that good stuff.
Yeah, cool. So I guess I could go back. So I grew up in Bayshore, right? So we played, football, pee-wee football with Joe, my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
T.J. Wilkinson, Cameron Thomas, all those guys.
Yeah,
right?
going back to the Bucks, man. Probably like second or third grade.
Yeah, exactly. So grew up in Bayshore. I was a St. Pat's, St. John's guy, and then went to University of Tampa and studied accounting. So, through college, I wasn't always the best test taker in high school and everything. Like I always put in some effort, but like I never really was the best test taker, right? So when I got to college, studying accounting, I'm like,
oof,
it's
a hard one.
Pretty tough task, and I'm like, I don't really know.
What pushed you to accounting? You like math?
So my family's always been in the insurance industry. My dad had owned this agency for a while now, so he always stressed on us that he wanted us to do something else that we can get some education on and then, bring back to the business hopefully in the future if we want to come in.
Diversify your experiences and the business will always be there.
So for me, math was always kind of my thing. I've always been very interested in running businesses and just learning about what people do, whether I'm involved or not, kind of asking the questions to see what everyone's into. So I ended up kind of falling into the accounting route because it gave me kind of a broad understanding of like how a business is operating. Not even just from the numbers perspective, but from an operations perspective, right? So when I went through University of Tampa, I graduated with my accounting degree, and then I spent a couple of years at KPMG as a public accountant in the audit practice.
Oh, okay. So you graduated with accounting degree, and you got into, where was that? Was that in New York?
That was in Melville, but I had clients out in, Shirley, Jersey City, Manhattan.
You were driving all over the place.
Yeah, I was all over the place, working, there were a lot of times where we were working crazy, staying in the hotels across
in the spring, right? Like tax season is probably nuts.
Yeah, so in audit, it's not as much tax, but like it's year-end filings and all that kind of stuff. So, but kind of to loop this back into why this is even relevant, right? So audit, you look at the full operation of a business to make sure like what they're doing actually makes sense, right? Like everything they say they're doing on paper makes sense and their support to show. Right? So you learn the ins and outs of the financials and also the operations and the controls.
So it's so funny, as you're speaking this, we've worked together, and I can see your background, how relevant it is to what you do. So we'll get back to it. But it's like you're saying it, I'm like, that's so fucking cool because it's like your day. All right, so go back to
like last night when I was thinking about, coming on here, I've never done this before, obviously. I was excited to do this. So kind of thinking about like, all right, what's the story? Because I've listened to a couple of the pods too and kind of knew what to expect coming in here. But I was like, what's my introduction going to be like? So kind of tie in the whole public accounting thing and the experience that I got there into, what I'm doing now. So at the end of the day, really all it is for, from the accounting side, which parlayed into the insurance side, is fact finding and information gathering and really just putting a lot of pieces together, right? So the experience that I got from there, I was able to bring over pretty quickly into the, insurance business.
Yeah, so even though it was a pivot industry-wise, it wasn't too much of a pivot skill set-wise. You actually trained for it.
Yeah, there was a lot of pivots. It was a little bit of a step back because of the route I wanted to go. I've always been like a sales guy. I was coming into the business with a family, so just personally, not really, don't really care what other people think, but just to me personally, wanted to prove that I could do something for myself, right? And doing that, I sold, right? So I just kept selling, and I came up in the business almost 7 years ago now. I learned a lot about the personal line side, right? So we'll kind of probably stick to the homeowners and personal line side today, not go as much into the commercial and auto and all that kind of stuff that I deal with on a day-to-day basis as well. But, when I was starting in the industry, I was like, wow, like there's so much similarities in terms of, you're following up with people constantly, you're asking a lot of questions, you're seeing what's relevant in people's situations, right? Like, and even with all that, the industry's changed so much in the past 7 years that I think coming into it at the time I did kind of played to my benefit because there were so many things changing that you learned about things that were changing that really wouldn't come up unless you had the experience of dealing with it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So because it was changing, it was becoming new and fresh. So everybody was a rookie in that moment. Yeah,
right.
I think that the world has changed so much, and we grew up in the change that like the reset of a lot of things has happened. So we started at the same point, in some senses, in a lot of ways, with technology is a big one. With how there's probably insurance brokerages that were still using paper for as long as they could fight it.
They still can, and it's funny you bring that up because we've hired people in like recent past, and I love hearing this stuff because they come in and they're like, you guys are so advanced. Like we've been working on this stuff for I've been in the industry for 30 years, and like we're hiring them on day one. They're like, we still use file cabinets in my old place, and I'm like,
I couldn't even imagine.
I know it's such like,
but that's because we've been doing it this way for 30 years, and it's how we're going to do it. But to us, it's a no-brainer. But there are still the transitions. But I do think that was like our age group, like when we were starting to work, is where more and more companies started to transfer over to it. So it kind of leveled the playing field.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like you learned it in college. Like we just inherently knew how to use Windows Explorer. It's like you can find it. You can find it in Windows Explorer. So, and
I think with that, all these changes too, it's like it's creating so much opportunity in the industry because there's so many people that are on their way out because say they're 60 years old and these are headaches they're dealing with now that they never had to deal with, and it's stuff that it's annoying to have to keep up with, but if you do keep up with it, you're ahead of the game, 100%. Right? And there's so many people, like how many guys do you know that went to college for insurance? Like not even a lot of guys that you probably know that are in insurance at our age, right? So it's kind of an older guy's game. So
I think there's huge opportunity for our generation. There's a lot of older guys' games, and because people don't want to get into it,
right?
And that's where the opportunity for us to grow is because, like you said, the average person who does your job is 45 years old. I'm the same boat. The average guy who does what I do is 45 years old. So it's like, there's so much we bring to the table. Obviously, you gotta, play more of a mature role. But there's definitely opportunity there. Now with you, this is a PRK. To fast forward, you work with PRK.
Yep.
This is a family business.
Yep. So it's me, my sister, and my dad currently, and then my other sister, she's at another brokerage, pretty big brokerage. She's in cyber, so she's working there now. So
different,
never know.
Different niche.
So it's same brokerage kind of business, but she's specifically doing cyber work.
Oh, okay.
Eventually, maybe she'll come into the business, maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
she's a wild card, but she's fun.
She's doing her own thing. Now, growing up in the business, your whole life, your dad was doing this?
So actually, no. So my grandfather. So my mom's dad, right, and then my grandmother, her dad was in insurance, right, and then my grandfather started in insurance, started an agency, and my dad was a cop at the time.
Oh, really?
So, my dad, right when he didn't go to college or anything, right, he went and he was a cop.
Yeah.
So his whole family, pretty much, his brother, his dad, all
Cop
cops,
family.
right?
So dad's side cop family, mom's side insurance.
Mom's side insurance, right?
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. So as my dad was on the job and he was meeting all these people, he sees this opportunity. He actually, take a step back, he actually owned a landscaping company before that. So he was, he had a bunch of landscaping accounts. He was, running that company.
See, I didn't really know your background, right? And I know it's a family business. And I think insurance and a lot of sales is clean cut, golf course, but you don't give off that vibe. You are a very down-to-earth, real dude, and that makes perfect sense to me. Because like you said, your dad, I'm sure the story continues on, and your dad is in the business for a long time, but he has such a different background. And I'm not assuming that insurance is the stuff for your business, but you know what I'm saying. You get a lot of salesy people where it's like super clean, and it's just super, like you said, it's just like, you are a very real, down-to-earth person. So now that makes perfect sense to me. That your background
and that's something
is
I
more
want
real.
to definitely touch back on after I kind of wrap up this story, because that's something that I try and do. You know what I mean? It's like something that I actively care about, not being some just robot. Knowing like if someone has my cell phone number, I can.
You're if somebody asks, like you come like doing a lot of work in Bright Waters and Bayshore, like you come up a lot. Like people like I always connect, like cross the bridge, like who do we know? And it'll be like, Matty K? And they're like, Matt, coolest guy I know. Like everybody looks at you just like super chilled out. Dude, listen, this is my podcast. You would not be sitting in that chair if I didn't like you. So you're here because I like you, and it's the truth. You're just a super chill dude. So yeah, like I said, in your not to put everyone in that position like in a box, but I think it's probably more common that it's clean cut and it's BMWs and it's Rolexes and it's like. Less real, you're real. So now going back to your dad was a cop. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
He's always, my mom and dad, both of them, like they've always loved helping people, right? So like we were raised with a great family. Like we're all super close. Like even like my wife, and like she's now part of the family.
Yeah.
And, like everyone's so close with each other, right? That we all kind of are very similar in that sense. And I think we kind of learned that from my grandparents and my parents.
Yeah, good family values. It goes a long way. Yeah.
So we, back to my dad was a cop. So he got his insurance license, started selling, a bunch of the people in the police department. Cops don't get tickets, rarely get in accidents. So they were good clients, right?
Yeah.
So he, progressed in his career, built a little bit of a book, and he did that through my grandfather at the time. But then fast forward a couple of years, it just made sense for my dad to kind of, because he retired from the job a little early, but retired from the job and then took the insurance thing full time.
Yeah.
And he was like, I think I could do this on
my
my
own.
own.
So he saw the opportunity for him to go on and do his own thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So my grandpa always supported it, and he was always great.
So different, grandpa had his firm.
Right.
Your dad went
Sawyer
and did his
Insurance
own.
actually in East Islip.
What
Carvel is?
Yeah.
Right next to that Carvel, it's a dentist now.
Yeah.
But it used to be Sawyer Insurance and Travel, and that was So my mom and my grandma ran the travel agency.
Oh, get out of here! That's so funny.
My grandfather and his two sons ran.
My wife's family was big in travel, so after we'll chat about that because you got to ask you said your mom did it?
Yeah.
She probably knows my wife's family.
I'm sure she does. But
so grandpa had his thing. So your dad was like, I'm leaving the career. I'm going to go out and do my own thing.
Yeah.
This is when you were a kid.
Right. So I was actually a kid, and I remember when it was happening. Like I think back all the time. Like certain things in our life that were moving around, the dice that my dad were rolling. Like I didn't even realize.
Yeah, you just wanted a new PlayStation, and Dad's like, he's trying to make a business, right? We lived through. We were in middle school when the recession collapsed. My dad. I never felt it, like I never missed a birthday, never missed Christmas, and my dad was trying to just make sure the mortgage was being paid, I hear stories about that a lot, or like in real estate too, it got so slow where they're like, I just didn't know if I was gonna lose my house or not. Like I could never, I never feel that thing, what I mean? Like,
that's what's good about insurance, right? It's like it is relatively recession proof if you do the
people
right thing
always
all the
need
time.
it,
People always need it, but to make a long story short, right? So that ended up happening. He ended up going out in Massapequa, opening up his own shop, and he did his thing for a couple of years, had a couple really good mergers, acquisitions, and then ended up merging with my grandfather's shop so he can retire as well. So
cool.
Now we're all one big
Is that why it's
happy
PRK?
family. Well, PRK was Preller and Rice, so that was one of the other mergers.
Oh, cool.
Sawyer Insurance they're not in the name, but they're a lot of them.
Part of it.
Was a part of it, yeah.
That's interesting stuff, man.
Yeah, so now here we are, and my dad did it like 15 years-ish just as PRK without Mia Morgan, and then we've all been doing it together for the past 7 years.
So you and your sister, Morgan, she's older, younger? Or
She's a year older.
So very close in age. So you guys got in at the same time, just about?
Just about. She started a couple months before me.
But essentially the same time.
So,
did you see, with you guys coming in, did you bring in, like, the breath of fresh air? Like, we were talking about technology and stuff. Like, did you have to force Dad to adapt, or was Dad easy to adapt to the newer stuff? Like,
so that's one thing I'll give my dad a lot of credit on, is he always was looking for, like, the next, next thing.
Staying
right?
fresh.
Like, seeing what the agencies that, because we're at these carrier events all the time, right? So we're connected with all this 50 different carriers, say, right? So these carriers invite us to dinners and all these events. So we meet these other agents, and we kind of just pick a lot of brains.
Yeah, you shoot the shit, and you see, you stay on the pulse of the industry. Yeah.
So you keep in touch with all these guys that are really at, like, the top level of the industry of what we're doing, and then you become really good friends with them, and next thing you know, you guys are just information sharing,
exchanging ideas. Yeah.
It's like there's so much business out there. Like we were saying before, you look outside, and like we have my dad's best friends are insurance brokers.
Yeah.
Like a lot of them are best friends.
I'm close with
friends.
a lot of other guys who do what I do. Like I said before, the guy who I told you about, he's the biggest guy that does what I do. And then I've had home inspectors on this, and the home inspector Mike that I had on this, we talk all the time, and we are always looking for ways to help each other out. We exchange ideas, and it is so beneficial for both of our businesses. We make more money working together than we do.
No doubt about that.
Like, what are we're gonna fight over the scraps? Where if we collaborate and we work together, like, obviously there's you're still competition, so I'm sure there's things going back and forth. But I don't look at it like that. I don't look at it like that because we have a bigger picture. We can fight over a client, or we can exchange ideas that'll make us 1,000 clients. Like,
exactly. And if you're only fighting over one client, maybe you should focus on something else other than being mad at somebody.
Dude, I've said this before, but it's like any job that, like I said, Mike, cool, Mike. Any job I didn't get that Mike got over me. Yeah. He's just doing what he does better than what I did, and I did something wrong. I got to just focus on myself anyway. So even if I'm losing clients to guys that I'm cool with, that's a me problem, and that's just as part of being successful in business anyway. Like, I shouldn't be looking. I should be looking at what other people are doing to win, to try and emulate it. I shouldn't be like pouting that they're winning. Like, if they're winning and I'm not, like, well, maybe I need to do a little bit like what they're doing. Yeah.
And there's so much validation in it too. Is like, you create these relationships with these other brokers, right? And I'm I have so many friends that are in the business that are from our age to 75, guys I use as mentors that have done what I'm looking to do, guys that are equivalent to what I'm looking to do.
Which is very important.
That equivalent to what I'm doing now at, say, a bigger shop that, I can bounce ideas off. And the most validation comes when someone brings you up, kind of like you just said, right? And like, oh, do you know this person? It's like, oh, that's a great guy. Like, I don't want to step on toes here. Stick with who you got. Like, he's going to give you great guidance. Yeah. You have no idea how often I come across policies, and we're talking like, some of them are big money. Yeah,
where you could, right? it's really worth your time kind of thing.
Yeah, it's really worth my time because, off of however much work, you can make a lot of money. Yeah. And it's, in some cases, it's as easy as just like signing one piece of paper and now you're the broker.
Taking over their thing,
Right. So having like, it's almost like a layer of defense surrounding you when you become friends with all these brokers that I would never take any, unless they were totally doing something wrong, which none of the people that I associate myself really do. Yeah. I could pretty much
associate with good people. You do the right thing. I've found that's the biggest insulator from getting screwed over. I know a lot of people who are very, very risk adverse, and they're so worried about getting screwed over. They're always looking over their shoulder. And I've realized, like, we don't live in a war-torn country where somebody's going to shoot me 24/7. Like, in different scenarios, maybe if I was storming the beaches of Normandy, like, I'd probably have to be a little bit more rough and aggressive and not trust anybody. No, in this world we live in, like, and Long Island, being a business owner, I have found, like you said, if you're a really good person, you're good at what you do, people respect me as a tradesperson, and I'm nice, they don't want to screw you over. Yeah, nobody wants to be a bad guy to a good guy. Like, if you're a jerk, they're going to be like, yeah, fuck him, he sucks. But, like, kind of the best insulation in getting screwed over in, like, our markets, because, like, if you got a reputation for screwing people over, like, you get it, like, the reputation spreads. People are going to know that you're a scumbag. And now that's setting you up for...
Warren Buffett says, like, something about like a reputation can be ruined in 30 seconds. It takes 30 years to build a reputation. It can be ruined in 30 seconds.
That's absolutely the truth.
Something along those
and
lines.
our market,
So
like
true.
Long Island, is so densely populated, and these small markets are so like you can work in 5 zip codes and make a whole career. Like you can't get a reputation for being a scumbag. So that's it's paramount in your business. But we were getting on moving the insurance industry forward when you came into the company, bringing technology and stuff. But you're saying your dad was kind of progressive with that, so it wasn't too much.
Yeah, he was good at identifying a lot of the stuff that we should be doing. And then, like, you know, I came from such a process-driven place, and, you know, I was auditing controls for these public companies, right? So, like, if a process wasn't on a piece of paper, I'm like, what are we doing?
Oh, so you're an SOP guy?
So
back then,
I was working on internal controls in these year-end audits, and it's not something that I did, like, fully, but I would get thrown into.
What I'm saying is, like, you are favorable of like an SOP, like
Yeah, but and you know as well as I do is like, as a business owner, it's so hard to keep everything documented and like every new thing that you establish, putting it into writing.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you find the time when you're already working till
just to do the work we need to do?
Put together the stuff that you already know how to do it, but now you just have to put it on the paper to show everybody else how to do it, which is the most important part. You know what I mean? But it's so easy to slip away. So back to what, you know, I was kind of getting at with the technology is, you know, my dad's always kind of identified the areas that, and the systems that we should use. And then I was pretty good coming in. All right, this system that we're using, we're not using it to the fullest potential. We can automate X, Y, and Z. Like
optimizing what you're already doing.
I right when I came in the business, I thought like I was saving the world, because one of the things that, you know, on our e-sign platform, like creating templates for these applications, because it would take like 5 minutes and I made it like 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Yeah. So throughout a day, and you know,
that's a win though. I know you're saying that when you first started, there was a big deal.
Yeah, no doubt. And
but I do think
more efficient.
I'm big on that, because like in the construction industry that I was in, every day we did the same tasks over and over. We did high rise, so the floors don't change that much. There's different floors, but for the most part it's pretty typical. Every time we did the same thing over and over again, you should get like 1% faster at it. And I think about that all the time. Is like, where are the inconsistencies in what you're doing? And yeah, you saved 9 minutes, but you saved 9 minutes over a whole year.
Well, and the way I look at it, it's like, you know, every application you save 5 minutes.
Saying you probably saved a 40-hour work week and
I
wasted
forget
time.
what I timed it to but it was, you know, between 3.5 minutes to 5 minutes that it took to place the 52 different fields.
And it just gets old
areas. So I'm like, we could just click a button, guys, and you know that creates 3 minutes of time saved when they're sending out a couple applications
100%.
a day. It's like 15 minutes to a half hour every day for 5-6 employees. So that's like, you know, in the grand scheme.
And that's one thing.
A lot of time.
It's one thing.
It's
versus
one thing.
And how many times you always go back and look. And now with technology and even, you know, AI is like a buzzword that freaks people out. But like I feel like AI does so much. Like if you know how to use AI appropriately, like AI can do so many things like this too. Where everybody's worried that getting efficient like that is going to put you out of business. No, getting efficient like that is going to bring you more business and just allow you to focus on. Because the person that was focusing on inputting stupid information, they're now focusing on stuff that they're actually getting paid to do.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
Anybody can do that.
Exactly.
But, all right, so you bring a fresh set of eyes, and your sister also too, you know, good youth into the business. But like you said, your dad's company was already kind of set up to do.
So he had it. I don't want to say it was an old school. He had it. He had it that, you know, running as a machine, right? And it was kind of how can we make it better, right?
Yeah.
And we've grown like a weed since in the last 7 years.
Which is cool, like you said. It wasn't like your dad was doing it on paper and you had to bring him QuickBooks. You know, like we already had systems in place, and you're like, hey, we're paying a subscription for this anyway. We can do like 6 other things with it, which I think is really cool too, because I found that recently somebody was telling me about how they have their CRM do something that I want to get done. They're like, oh, my CRM does that. I was like, well, now I'm going to go dig into the CRM and see if I do. I'm already paying the subscription. Like I have so many different things like that. That's like my first thought is like, is anything I'm already paying for able to do this? Because then I'm just going to be
able to do more.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just use that for now. But all right, cool. So 7 years into it.
Yeah.
You obviously love it.
I love it.
Yeah, you're all into it.
I mean, it's something that I'm definitely. I don't want to say I'm alone in that boat, but there's not many people that could say they love the business that I'm in. I think I've been given kind of a unique opportunity because of what I can, you know, why I love it kind of goes past just the insurance, which I am pretty passionate about, and I do dig into the, you know, policy forms, and I do get kind of technical. But the bigger side of it is, you know, you can help create something that is really impacting a lot of people now. You know, like we have 15 people that come in every day. We have about 20 people day to day involved in the business, but 15 that come in every day. And all these guys that come into work and girls that come into work, like they essentially become a part of our family.
Oh,
you know?
yeah,
like
100%.
we're working together. Like we're such a good team, and like we're so I want to say kind of precise on who we keep at PRK, because it's got to be a good culture.
Yeah, the
fit.
atmosphere is, you got to get, culture is really important. Yeah. And 15 people is a lot of people. It's a lot of personalities.
Yeah. So it's a lot of personalities to keep in line, right? So making sure the right people are sitting.
So yeah, on top of the insurance side of it, you were passionate about the business side of it too.
Yeah, so
because
running
that's
the business and then,
too, you could like the insurance and then hate the business and be like, screw it, I just want to go work for somebody.
Right,
But you're actually
right,
enjoying both.
right.
So you're in the perfect scenario.
And like having the control to actually like take advantage of things outside of work. Like, you know, if you ever find out, not even just employees, but absolutely employees, but not even just employees, like if someone needs help, like as a business owner, like, you know, you work hard, you become successful, and like you start being able to take care of more than just yourself.
Yeah,
and I feel
absolutely.
like that's kind of what drives me a little bit, I could say, is like, that's
You
always
like the
been my
community
goal,
of it, and you want to be a leader in your community,
Yeah.
and you want to be able to help people in ways
Yeah.
you can. Even sometimes just in business networking, it's like passing, like I came to you I needed your services, and you like provided a service, but you provided it at such a tier, like top tier, that you helped me. Like, you know what I mean? Like obviously I was a client and there's an incentive for you to do that, but your service was so top notch that you did actually helped me, like as a friend, you know what I mean? So it's like you did like use your business to help a friend out, you know, like, and even if it was just passing off a referral too, sometimes like it's like I like that too, where it's like people come to me because they're like, hey, I need this, can you help me out? And it's like sometimes it's just putting them in contact with hey, this guy can do the right job for you. So that's cool. That's a really great opportunity for you.
Yeah, that one's pretty cool. And like, you know, I'll kind of ended on this, but like it's back to when you hire someone and then the comments that they make to you that you kind of take that they don't even realize they're saying. But we just hired my cousin recently, and he's doing such a good job. And one of the first things he said in the first couple of weeks, he's like, you know, you and Morgan, like, you really go out of your way to try and help people all the time. Like you're always trying to help people. And I'm like, you know, from my perspective, like that's how you grow a business.
Yeah.
If I can just help everybody accomplish all of their tasks,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like I wouldn't be able to do all that work without all these people.
Yeah, I've heard of referred to as deposits and withdrawals, really. You know, like I know in some people in sales, like they're always looking to take, and they're like, if you can just switch your mindset to just giving more,
Right.
Everything else will come back your way. Like it will flow back your way abundantly. But if you, instead of you focusing on what you can take, just focus on what you can give to people, and in any way it flows back to you. So even just business wise, even if the end game is to be selfish and greedy, the more people you help, the more you can help yourself anyway. So, but you're not. You're just a nice, likable guy. So that's what, like I said. You just it's very natural for you to be.
try.
So, all right, we got your cousin's thumbs up of approval.
Yeah,
that's cool.
no, that's what I mean.
Because he's gonna be the one that's gonna be like, yo, you're kind of a dick to work for, bro. Like I kind of hate this. I need to leave.
That's kind of why I love it. Right?
Cousins are honest.
He's like, you know, I would get his honest feedback if I was, you know, if I was doing something, and I ask, you know, I'm like an open book to all of,
you can ask like, am I being a dick? And he'll be like,
did I say something wrong here? Am I missing something? Was I a little too cold? Because like when I get so busy, you know, as a business owner, it's like you get so busy and you're trying to drum up all this business, and like you have 1,000 things to do, and you know.
I find it in text messages. I'll be swamped. Like right now, my phone's freaking blowing up, and somebody needs something, and I'll like. Right now, I'm not going to answer it, but like on a job, I'll answer it quick. But like I'm crawling through fucking crawl space, and text can be perceived so cold that I'm like, they probably think I'm answering like, you know, I'm always so conscious of it when you get busy too. It's like when it happens, and now it's like, fuck, this person probably thinks I'm answering cold. So it's it just is what it is. But it's part of being busy.
It's like when, you know, your wife texts you during the day and you read the text, you fully understand, and you write K on action.
That's it. You're done. Yeah, at least you answered.
K's not a good one.
At least you answered. I'll get the call. You're like, you never called me when you left. It's like, I totally called you. I looked, I totally forgot to call when I left. But all right, let's circle back because it is the Knowledgeable Homeowner Podcast. And obviously, there's a big spectrum of insurance, but homeowners insurance is such a huge part of people's lives. It's a huge part of the home buying process. It's also a huge part of homeownership. So I definitely want to reel it back to that. And I guess if I could start off with it, I think a question I would ask is, what do you think a homeowner makes, like a common mistake a homeowner makes when it comes to their homeowner's insurance and buying a house?
All right. So I don't want to call it the
Or
the
a
biggest
common mistake,
but
yeah.
I would say the most important thing is finding the right person that's going to shoot it straight. Right?
Okay.
So if you go out and you really do have to kind of make sure that you go to an agency that has all the markets, that's going to tell you to check State Farm, Geico, and Allstate, even though, whether that works out for you or not. The most important thing is talking to the right person. You could start by looking at their website, see if they have a bunch of carriers that even write homeowners insurance in New York, right? So if they do, that's a good sign. And then you can kind of hop and have a conversation with them and see, like, what are my options? Where are you buying a house? And I'll grab all the information that I need. How close are you to the water? How are you south of Sunrise Highway? How big is the house?
So yeah, they find the right person. The right person is going to guide them in the right direction.
Questions, right? And then even if I can't help them, I could tell them, like, I've worked on all these deals before. I've seen it. I don't want to say I've seen it all. I haven't seen it all, and I'm still learning a lot.
Of course,
every day.
yeah.
But
and especially in our markets, like if we're buying a house in our area, you've asked the same questions about similar houses a lot.
And I've done thousands.
All right, so to back it up a second, just because I want to give the information for a home buyer.
Yep.
If I'm in the home buying process, and I get this a lot as a home inspector, I'm one of the fringe people that people reach out to. Most people just blindly trust their realtor, but I get a lot of people who will be like, hey, buying a house, I got your name from a friend, and I just want to know about what you do before we find the right one, and now I'm forced to use you, right? Dumb question, like who is the person that I'm looking for? What's the title of the person I'm looking for to deal with insurance? Like, do I just call State Farm or?
Well, so you can do that. There's two different kinds of agents. There's captive and independent. So captive is going to be like your Geico, not as much on the homeowner side, that's a bad example, but the State Farm and Allstate's. So they just sell State Farm and Allstate, right? So when I tell someone to go look into State Farm or Allstate, I just say, hey, find your local broker, because they're all over or agent, they're all over the place.
Okay.
Right? From my side, the broker side, it's truly a relationship business. So if you're just calling a broker randomly, not on a referral, right? You want to make sure he's asking questions. You want to, I know it's annoying to sit through a 10-minute conversation.
Yeah, but we're interviewing. At the point of the phone call is to kind of interview the person anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah,
like
make sure they're asking you questions. The broker.
Yeah. So the broker should be asking a lot of questions. If they're not, they're making a lot of assumptions that could really nip you in the butt down the line, right? So, if someone writes you a private flood policy and the company doesn't necessarily cross their T's and dot their I's, but one of the underwriting eligibilities is they can't have had a prior flood loss. Like, you're gonna have a problem at claim time when they,
These
if
are
they
really
have to pay out $200,000. They're gonna find out if there was a
nobody but the insurance guy thinks about.
Right.
Yeah, like I don't even, I'm the house guy, and I'm like, I don't know what he's getting out about.
So and there's
that's great though, because that's the point is that you need to trust the professional with this. We can't just blindly trust. So in your situation, what you're saying is we go to an insurance broker,
Yep.
we have conversation with them. Is there a perfect time to reach out to the broker or?
Yeah, so usually I tell people, right when you get into contract is a good time.
Okay, so we can find the house, and then we can start talking to brokers.
Yeah,
There's
unless
less
it's
of a rush.
little bit of a hairy situation, right? If you're buying a house on the water, if you're buying an investment property that is on the water and the prior owners had insurance, like that's something that you should ask the buyer about, or the seller about, rather. Who do you have your flood insurance with now? Who do you have your homeowner's insurance with
I'm sure you
now?
hear this. I do a lot on the water. We do a lot on the water. And part of the conversation of consulting buyers is everything about the house comes up. And it's, we're waterfront, I'm looking for water damage, and they'll always be like, oh, the homeowner said the flood insurance is only $2,500.
Right.
And my response is, because I'm a cover your ass, not even cover my ass, cover your own ass as a buyer, said that is worth the paper it's written on. Don't believe it until somebody's like, what do you, how about this? Actually, I heard it was $100. People are full of shit, especially in real estate. Nobody tells the truth in real estate.
Yeah.
So like am I wrong for that sentiment?
No, you're not
like
wrong
you
to
should
say that.
so people if they're buying by the LIE and there's not a flood
dealing
issue.
with 2 cases like that right now.
Really?
That people got into contract with flood policies that they were told a rate that the current owner was paying, and then they never really got a copy before getting into contract.
Thank you for validating me on this, because I'm like, why are you believing anything they're saying?
Yeah, like you should always really make sure that not only is there a policy in place, and this is more for the flood side, because the flood follows the property. Mm-hmm. The homeowner's side is more, you can't assume somebody else's policy. So you can ask somebody.
So the flood insurance.
You can take someone's policy.
Oh, so that's why they talk about it.
Right.
Okay.
So that's why it's
so I
relevant.
can assume somebody else's flood
flood,
insurance.
yes.
But I don't know what that's covering.
No, you know what it's covering. So flood insurance is basic. It's you have a building limit and you have a contents
So there's no
limit.
risk in taking it over. Like it's not like
No.
it's a pretty normal
No.
process to take
yeah,
over.
most
Okay.
people, and to be honest with you,
Because
after
the new rates are so high.
the FEMA 2.0 change, I think it was in October of 23 or 22, I forget, don't quote me on the date, but they changed everything where, even elevation certificates aren't as relevant anymore. They used to be like you needed one if
Yeah.
you were on the water, if you were elevated a
Oh,
little
so
bit.
that's less important? Like the FEMA flood map,
it's
the,
great
the
if you have
AE9 and all that stuff?
Yeah, so it's great if you have one, but it's becoming a little bit less relevant in the quoting process.
Okay.
And the rates kind of, they said for every, FEMA said for every house, the rates aren't going to go up, but everyone that I've
It's gone up.
checked to move, it's been way higher. So my kind of advice to any home buyer, as much as I want the business, assume the prior policy, and then we could take it over on renewal.
Okay.
So I help them
Until it's
kind of
time to renew.
facilitate the process of just assuming that flood policy. But for the homeowners, we'll take a step back there. Like I said from the start, the most important thing is that your broker's asking you a lot of questions. Find out where your house is. Obviously, they're taking an address so they can look up on Google where it is. But if you're in Lindenhurst, right on the water, and your roof is 30 years old or 25 years old, and you had your home inspector say, "Hey, your roof is fine," but it's 25 years old. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are like, going start shopping for insurance, and they're like, well, now I can't get insurance because my roof is 25 years old. Mm-hmm. But the inspector said it was fine. So
Yeah.
why is the insurance company?
It's
so
a
that's
big.
like-
I get that call back all the time.
Right.
Where it's like, in my situation, I'm a pain in the ass inspector. So like most of the time when it's 25 years old, like I'd much rather the realtor call me, and I've had this recently. The realtor call me like, "You're too fucking mean about old stuff." And it's like whatever. I'd rather them call me than the homeowner call me and be like, I had no idea it was this old. So I have no
Right.
problem telling you, like, hey, listen, it's good today, but it's,
you have to.
it's gonna swap
like-
out. But you know what it is it's like there's the semantics of it where it's like, well, just because it's 25 years old doesn't mean, like, if it's in good shape, then like, why would you even say how old it is? And it's like, because I want them to know it's not going to last another 30 years. I want them to have an idea of when they're going to change
Right.
it. So that's a callback we'll get where like insurance said we need a letter from a roofer saying it's got 5 years left. That's a thing,
Yeah,
right? Isn't that a
yes,
thing?
yeah.
And now, is that because the insurance doesn't want you
Not
to...
for most carriers. Most carriers,
Okay,
it's 20 years, and they don't care. There's some
Yeah,
carriers.
why is that a thing?
What, the age of the roof?
No, like that letter, and like why does that happen? Because it's old and they don't want to cover it?
What the broker is probably saying is that, all right, so a lot of these carriers will have underwriting guidelines that say you can't have a roof over 20 years. So even though you put in the inspection that it's 25 years old, and this is why it's so important to deal with someone who's honest, and you're making sure that he's telling you the truth, which is, it's difficult to do, but it is possible.
Yeah.
Call me.
Yeah, yeah.
But if that broker's putting in the roof was redone in 2008, it's an old roof. It looks old. How can you validate that it's not 2008 and it's not over 20 years? But
Yeah.
really, it is because of the inspection report.
Yeah.
So
And you guys, like, they'll look
about-
at the report, too, sometimes. Like,
yeah, sometimes they'll look at
Yeah.
the inspection report. Not really all that often, the
Okay.
inspection report, but they do ask for it sometimes. And what will happen in some cases, as well as I do, and during COVID, especially, people were waiving inspections. We got
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
So now we need a roofer to say, okay, yeah, 2008 sounds right. This roof has 5 years left in it. But what does that do?
Yeah, nothing.
The roofer could
could
just
fail
say
tomorrow.
that.
Yeah.
It's not like it.
So
it's
that's
his
my
fault if
point.
something
Is like
happened,
it's just a piece of paper. Is it so that if I, as a homeowner, try to get my insurance to pay for the roof, they're gonna go after the roofer? Like
That's
what
the
is it?
thing.
What is
That's
the
the
point?
thing. Like, it's not. There's not really like, the
It's like a
roofer's saying
formality.
It should last 5 more years.
Yeah, and if
So
it doesn't,
it's almost like a file stuffer for the carriers.
That's what I
that,
figured.
They need some sort of support to justify that. All right, he's saying it's 2008. Maybe it looks a little older, but how can we say that it's not? So they're in a tough spot. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like, so that's why.
kind of pass the buck situation. Like the roofer said it's good,
Right.
and we're gonna deal with it.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important. Like from the broker's side that has the relationships with the carriers and the insured, that you're looking out for both the carrier and the insured,
Yeah.
and not to take anyone's side, but if you're placing somebody with a carrier that they don't fit in, you're doing everybody a disservice.
Yeah.
Because one, if it's misrepresentation, there's a chance a claim might not get paid if a broker wrote something that they should have never wrote.
Yeah.
But it's the whole roofing thing has become a pretty
Yeah.
controversial topic. Like,
Yeah.
I know we were talking about before, like, what the controversial topics in the
Yeah.
industry are. These inspections right after, so, nobody really talks about either when they sell a homeowner's policy and you just call a random broker. They're like, all right, you're done, signed, sealed, delivered. Then knock, knock, inspector's here.
Yeah.
You
gotta fix the shed that's dilapidated on the side of the house.
Right, or take it down.
Yeah.
Or do something.
And now and like they're living in the house for 3-4 months already too. Like they're already like moved in, everything's comfortable.
Most are within 60 days. You get the letter.
So it's quicker than that.
Because
Okay.
they have they have their underwriting discovery period, so they have to get the letter out for recommendations.
Yeah, when I moved in here, I had a dumpster in the driveway, and they were going to drop me because I had a dumpster.
Yeah,
so I
because
just had to
that
take a
shows,
picture
like,
of it without the
the
dumpster in it.
construction in progress.
Yeah. So we worked it out, but I do remember the panic.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit.
And most of them are pretty understanding. It's like, you need a dumpster because you're buying a house that someone just lived in for 40 years.
Yeah, throw out all their stuff.
All their stuff. They left a bunch of stuff. You got stuff in the house like chairs, all that kind of cabinets, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, mine was gone. They probably peeked into the window until the whole first floor was gone. So this guy's not living. I didn't live in it for months, so they were not wrong. But
Okay, got it.
yeah, so that's why I was like,
you wanna
I'll
be
do whatever they
careful
want
for
to make
sure.
them happy. I was like, call the dumpster guy quick. But we are getting close on time, and I know you had some.
That flew by.
It's
I feel like I
so
can talk
great.
to
Well,
you
we'll run it. I think, especially with these niche things where there's so much to learn and there's so many different ways we can go. The second episode is like we come in with specific topics.
Maybe we'll talk about like commercial real estate.
That's the same.
Not necessarily. Just
We can hammer it, but I know you had some points. I want you to check in. If there was some stuff you wanted to bring
I
up.
feel like we covered a lot, but
I don't want to leave here with stuff that we could have jumped into. If there's anything you want to get into. 'Cause I have like 37 more questions in my head that I can go into.
I have a bunch of points here, and I'm just looking. I'm like, we're not going to get through all this. But the biggest thing, that I guess you could take from like my perspective and the industry is like you just always have to do the right things, and what we've spoken about already. You just have to do the right thing, and things fall into place, right? Even more than that, you got to work hard, right? So like, it's not like I just wake up, I go play golf, I check my emails and call it a day, right? Like there's, you waking up at 5:30 in the morning, getting to the office or starting work at home, and like really putting in the work to make sure not only you're making more money, but that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's, because at the end of the day, your homeowner's insurance specifically is one of the biggest. Doesn't seem like it, but you're protecting your biggest purchase of your life, and your biggest asset for a lot of people.
Well, I think when we run our second episode back, that's like a big thing that I want to get into, where it's like I'm not like a type of person like who would call insurance, but like there's this entire thing, like your house is insured. Like there's so many scenarios where it can go bad because you didn't have the right coverage, or it can go good if you have the right coverage. So like I said, that we'll circle back to that. But on your point of crossing your T's, dotting your I's, and I'm going to kiss your ass one more time, but because I used you recently, and you did I needed to get something insured, and it was a process, and like my situation made some road bumps and some obstacles, and you put a lot of work in, and there was points where I was like, I really hope he's getting paid well for this, because he's putting in you were putting more effort into it than I was, like, even mentally, there were so many points where I was like, I owe this guy a freaking box of freaking like coffee or something. Like I gotta get him a bottle, because I was like but that to me like that's the point, is like when you work with professionals, like I hope it was worth your time, because the amount of work, and I'm sure I'm saying, but like the amount of effort you put into it was visual, and we're on the phone, so like that to me is like, I know if I sent a client your way. Like that's the like like before we worked together, like when I got the homeowner's policy on my house, it was 2016. That was not how I felt after that process. Like it was a sign a form,
like
move on.
Really
I don't even know, bro. I still to this day don't even know.
I do or whatever.
I have no idea. But then when recently it came up, I called you. I have the broker. I called you immediately. And everything insurance-wise, I call you. So it's like, just so you know, keep rocking the way you're rocking, because I like working like with you. I see it. Like you fucking work, and I felt super confident that this was the best case scenario. Like I have a partner to go back to, and he was like, he trusted me with the process. He was like, you handle this, and I was able to go back to him like, we're good. We have a good plan. This is what we're gonna do. But all right, we're getting waved on. Matty K, if you want to take a second, if you want to plug your Instagram, plug the business, where can people find you if they have insurance questions?
But I'm not as involved on social media, but definitely look up PRK Insurance on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, PRKinsurance.com. You can give us a buzz at the office. We always have people answering the phones. If you ever have questions, if you ever want quotes, home, auto, commercial property, construction, you name it, we could help you. But yeah, man, I appreciate you having me. This was a great time, and
thank you for coming on.
Definitely do it again.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the next one. So appreciate you, brother. If you guys have any insurance questions, give Matt and his team a call. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Until next time, stay knowledgeable.